welcome back to another Mayor's Hour. Jack and I are here, and this is going to be a good one, Jack.
Oh, yes.
This is going to be a good one because what we're going to be talking about today is the Republican National Convention. We are, as of this filming, about 100 days out from what will be the biggest event that this city and this Bay Area has ever undertaken. And I don't know about you, but I couldn't be more excited about what's going to take place.
This is enormous. As you say, it's the biggest thing ever. And I was reading in the Washington Times, they've been running almost a regular feature up there about the trip to Tampa. And what they were pointing out is that with the 1,500 members of the press here, it'll be
15,000.
I mean, 15,000. It'll be bigger than any Super Bowl, most Olympic games, and the coverage of the Prince and Kate Middleton. It'll be a huge media event.
Well, and you know, look at this backdrop, Jack. I mean, how can the world not be mesmerized like we are who live here?
Yes.
And fall in love with this great city. I mean, this view here is what the world's going to see in August, and we're going to get to tell Tampa's story like it's never been told before, in whatever languages people want to access it, and to be able to talk about what a great place this is to do business.
It's almost like having a big hit movie made in your hometown, because so many people are going to see it again and again and again, impression after impression after impression, and they'll say, I want to go there. I want to be where this happened, where this big deal happened. And by the way, speaking of great shots here, another great shot that you're very familiar with is the Forum at, they call it I think it's the Bud Light deck or whatever it is. There are going to be 10,000 images from there going out all over the globe. It's going to be awesome.
Well, stick with us. We're going to be back with some of the folks that actually put this on. Ken Jones from the host committee. We're going to be talking to Bill Harris from the Committee on Arrangements. And we're going to be talking to our own expert on politics, and particularly Florida politics, Dr. Susan McManus from USF, a woman who I've known for 20 years and love her to death. And so stay with us. We'll be right back, and we're ready for a great show. Back. We are here with somebody who I have spent a lot of time with over the last year, and it's been a great pleasure. He's a Tampa native who went away for a while and earned his spurs, and he is now back leading the effort to put this convention on and to help us tell Tampa's story. His name is Ken Jones. He is the CEO of the host committee. Right. And Ken's going to explain to us the difference between the host committee and what the city does and what the Committee on Arrangements does. But Ken, welcome to the Mayor's Hour. Thank you for doing this. It's 100 days out. We know how busy you are.
It's 97 days.
97
days
out.
Yeah. 97, yeah. 100 on Saturday. So, well, thank you guys for having me.
By the time this show finishes running, it'll be 30 days after that.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your background very briefly, and then what the host committee does. So, because people hear host committee and they get confused between what the Committee on Arrangements does, what the host committee does, and what you are set up to do.
So background real quick. I did grow up here. I moved here in 1976. Grew up in just north of here in Port Richey, Florida. Went to Florida schools, stayed here most of my life. I did go to D.C., worked on the Hill for a while. Worked for former President George W. Bush and on the U.S. Senate. When I came back here, we got the good fortune of having a good Tampa Bay and Company Convention Visitor Bureau decide to put a bid together. They wanted to bid on the convention. So the original formings of the host committee started with that group. And so that group actually is a 501c3. They get put together to really showcase Tampa. So
and tell people what a 501c3 is.
So a C3 is a little different than any other tax-exempt group. So when you look at politics, everybody's tax-exempt, which means that they're not paying tax on the income. But the difference between those groups that actually do engage in politics versus what we do is we're here to showcase Tampa Bay. So when you give the host committee $1, you actually get a tax deduction, which everybody can use these days, I'm sure. So every dollar that we raise is a tax-deductible contribution because we're here to promote the city, the area, not to promote Mitt Romney or Barack Obama or anybody else. We're here to showcase Tampa.
And that's an important distinction because a lot of folks think that what Ken does is to do the politics. Actually, what he's doing is showcasing the city and helping us do the economic development side of things.
It's a very important distinction, and there are two groups that run a convention. You've got the host committee, which is what we are, much like a Super Bowl host committee or an Olympic host committee, and then you've got the corollaries, which would be like the IOC and the NFL, which actually put the games on. Same thing here with the RNC. They're actually the ones that decide how do the candidates get through the primary process, how do they get into the forum to become the nominee. That's not what we do. We just actually make the venue available, we pay for everything, but they're concerned, the COA and the RNC, they're concerned with electing Mitt Romney to be president. That's where we draw the line and say, hey, we're about Tampa Bay, we're about the entire Bay Area. You guys worry about the politics, we'll worry about the community.
Yeah, that is a big distinction. Once the convention is over, you don't care anymore about any of the Republicans or anything else. You just want to make sure they have a great time down here, get the nomination process done. Yep. And in spite of the fact it is very ceremonial in nature now because they already know who the nominee is going to be. The only mystery now being who the vice presidential nominee will be, and who the keynote speaker and a few things like that. But I remember being a part of the effort, emceeing a couple of events when we brought the
site committee in. You did a few things. That's right.
Yeah,
yes,
and
absolutely.
working with them. And again, they got a lot of help from some local Republicans who pulled a few strings.
And some Democrats. And some Democrats, too.
As well.
We got independents and Democrats. We got all sides of the aisle.
But it is a nonpartisan thing as far as the city and as far as your committee is concerned.
Yeah, it's correct. Exactly right. So we have to make sure that the forum is prepared to go. 15,000 members of the media are going to be here. It's the second biggest media event in the world, except for the Olympic Games.
And Ken, sort of tell us where folks are going to be located. I know the media will be housed at the convention
Correct.
center.
Yeah, and so this view behind us is a great shot because you've got the forum, which is the convention hall itself. All the people that wear all the funny hats and scream the names of the nominee, that's going to happen in the forum. The media center, which will be the biggest media center in the world for any event, it really is on par with the Olympics. They'll be right behind us at the convention center, and that's where you'll have bloggers row and radio row and the pencil press and the still photographers. If you've never been to one, you have to come see it. It's a phenomenal sight to see these media folks running around here. And so our job is to give them what we call nutritional value. Make sure that they're writing good stories about Tampa Bay. Feed the beast, right? You have happy media, you have a good event. You don't want to have.
We don't have to worry about feeding him.
No, he'll be good.
They feed him. I've been in his studio. They bring a lot of food into him. Yeah.
You tell us what you want. We'll feed you anything you want, Jack. We'll make sure that you're a happy
we'll be down there
media
every
guy.
morning doing that morning show down here. In fact, we're talking about you're not going to be driving down here and parking down here. You better have some way to get here, so we're going to get bussed in like everybody else.
Yeah, it is a bus-driven event. That's also a big misnomer, I think, is people think, oh my goodness, 50,000 people all at once at one time. But we've got a good transportation committee. The mayor's office has been doing great. And what we do is we stage it. It's a lot of buses coming in and out, and they're timed very well. It's not like every single person drives a vehicle. It's not like a sporting event where everybody's coming to a parking lot at a stadium. It's not quite the same because of the security of the event. So.
Well, tell us what to expect. I mean, we've never hosted an event of this magnitude before. Most people here have never been to a political convention. What can the residents of Tampa expect for that 4 or 5 day period?
Well, I hope they can expect a lot of excitement. I characterize these events as like and I get mad. Judy Genschaft gets mad at me every time I say this. It's like a Florida State football game. And she says, what about USF? And I say, well, I went to both schools. So it's like that, but it lasts for a week. And so it's a lot of intensity. It's a lot of excitement. You'll see a lot of traffic. You will. I mean, I'll make no mistake about it. You'll have some traffic downtown. Is it going to be insurmountable traffic? No, it's not going to be. I mean, the Secret Service, the Tampa Police, they're very good at making sure that it's a friendly event logistically and people can get in and out. So I think you'll see a lot of downtown activity. I think we're going to have a few protesters, maybe not as many as people think, I hope. But we want the city to function normally so people locally can go use the restaurants, they can come downtown, they can see what's going on, because it's democracy. It's history in the making, and we want people to witness it.
And you say it's democracy. That's an important point here. It's democracy here because you're calling on people of all stripes to help out. It is an opportunity for volunteers.
Absolutely.
Who want to, again, like we do, want to showcase the city, right?
Yeah, and we have to get about 7,000 to 8,000 volunteers. And, we don't have any questionnaire that says, what political party are you in? It doesn't matter. All we want to do is make sure that you're 18 years of age by June 1st. You're not going to cause, you're not doing it so you can get in to cause harm. We don't want anarchists to sign up as volunteers. We want people that want to help Tampa Bay. So you just have to be sure that, you're 18, you're here for the right reason, you're here to help Tampa Bay. And so we're going to sign
those people up.
What's
the website that people can go to?
It's 2012tampa.com,
okay.
www.2012tampa.com.
So if you're interested in helping out with this convention, just like we do with Super Bowls, go to 2012tampa.com and sign up to be a volunteer. And they'll be all over. There'll be greeters at the airports.
Correct,
There'll be
Yeah,
guides downtown?
Yeah, the volunteer effort goes really all over the Bay Area. We have about 100 hotels locked up. We've got about 50 venues.
And that's important. Because we're not New York and Chicago and don't have the hotels right in the immediate vicinity, these delegations and states will be staying at hotels all over the Bay Area.
Correct, yeah. All the hotels are located within Hillsborough and Pinellas County. It's about 15,000 hotel room nights. And so we've got about a third of the hotels in Pinellas and about 2/3 here in Tampa, including some of the ones you see here in the back. These will be some obviously very, very utilized hotels. They'll be full to capacity. But we have people in St. Pete, in Clearwater, in Brandon, all over the Bay Area. We don't get as far as Pasco or Polk or Sarasota, but it's just contained in these two areas.
That's an important thing, too, that although the city of Tampa is the one that reached out, was able to convince the Republican Party that this is where they want to be. And consider this, historically, there hasn't been a political convention here. There have only been 3. All 3 have been in Miami. The last 2 were both held in Miami, the Democrats and Republicans, and it goes all the way back to 1972. This is the first time they have said, hey, let's go where the weather is fantastic and the water and all of that other stuff, but the entire Bay Area is benefiting huge from this.
Absolutely.
Counties.
Yeah, and that's why the name of our committee is the Tampa Bay Host Committee. It's not just the Tampa Host Committee. And we did that very deliberately. That was very a thoughtful deliberation on our part when we got together and said it's not just about downtown Tampa. It's about the beaches. It's about everything else that we've got in this community. But your point about the conventions is interesting. 3 of the 4 conventions between 68 and 72 were all held in Miami Beach. That's unprecedented. That's never happened. I don't think it'll happen again either. So we're going to be here in 2012, and I think it's going to be another 40 years before it comes back. So we've got to make the most of the opportunity while we've got it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like the Super Bowl. It depends on a lot of outside factors. It's not a case of where everybody says, whoa, we had a great time down there, let's do it again next time.
Yeah.
Or like the Super Bowl where you might get it every 8 or 9 years.
That's correct. That's correct.
First of all, the elections only roll around every 4 years.
Right.
And then you've got the political considerations and all of these other elements beyond just what a great place to have a convention. So you got to do it up right if you're going to do it.
Yeah, and in fact, I hope the Democrats come here in 2016. I really hope the DNC comes back here. They look at how the Republicans do, and they want to come here 4 years from now. And if that happens, I'd love to get a group together to help get the bid here because it's good economic development. It's good for the city. And that's what we want to do is promote the economy, promote the city.
We got about a minute left in this segment. Talk to us about what small businesses could potentially expect out of this. I know you've been working really hard to make sure that some of the local companies are involved, some of the minority and women-owned firms are involved.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there'll be a lot of money that will be spent here to put this on, and we want to make sure everyone gets a piece of it. So,
yeah, so the amount of money that's going to get spent here is roughly $175 million. Part of that is security money that your office is responsible for. Part of it is money that we raise privately. And so what we've done is put together a business directory of 500 local small businesses. And those folks really want to get a piece of this. So anytime somebody comes to town, whether it's to buy a new pair of shoes or get their hearing aid battery changed or go buy a dress or get their hair done, we want them to take that directory, open it up and say, okay, these are our local small businesses. Here's somebody over on McDill Avenue or Gandy Boulevard. Let's go and patronize that business. That's the first of its kind. That's never been done before. So we're excited about it. We're going to push our small business as much as we can.
Well, we're going to have a busy 97 days.
Yes,
Ken,
we are.
You and I are going to have a lot more gray hair.
Yes, I see a few every morning.
Yeah,
more popping up.
You and me both. And I keep looking for some of that stuff that Mayor Greco used to have.
Oh.
I keep looking in the drawer to see if he left me any, but so far I haven't found any yet. But I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Believe me, I've seen him. He's taking it with him.
That's right. He keeps offering to give it to me. So Mayor Greco, please, I need, We'll be right back with Dr. Susan McManus. Ken, thank you, and I'll see a lot of you over the next couple of
Thank you, guys.
months.
I appreciate it.
Great job.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back to Ground Zero of the Republican National Convention 2012 here in Tampa, Florida. We are with one of my favorite people, Jack.
Oh, definitely mine. Over the years, no better political information anywhere.
Absolutely. She is the premier political analyst in the Bay Area, in addition to being a professor out at the University of South Florida. Dr. Susan McManus, who also is the political analyst for Channel 8. And we've all watched her for years and hang on her every word.
And for 970 WFLA.
Yes, and for 970, yeah, absolutely.
We had her before they did, I think.
Yeah. Well, Dr. McManus, it's good to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to be with these two ne'er-do-wells. But, here we are sitting in the shadows of what is a tremendous backdrop for the RNC. Talk to us about the politics. Tell us why, in your estimation, we were chosen. The strategic value of Tampa and the I-4 corridor, which you have written extensively about. The problem is we have 10 minutes, I could sit and talk to her for
Oh, I
hours
know.
and just listen. So we're going to try.
We have on a couple of election nights, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
yes, yes, yes.
Well, let's start with the I-4 corridor because it is still the political highway to heaven for the politicians that want to carry the state. Tampa Bay is the largest media market of 10 in Florida. And if you put Tampa plus Orlando together, you have 44% of all the registered voters in the whole state.
Which is really amazing.
Yeah.
But that's just part of the story. The other part is that the Tampa Bay media market, the 10 counties, is the largest in the entire state of Florida. 1/4 of all the voters live here. And would you believe that the split between Democrats and Republicans right now, 38% Democrats, 38% Republicans.
Really?
20% no party affiliation and 4% minor parties like Libertarians, Reform. The same mix is over in the Orlando area. So together, the I-4 corridor is truly become one of the most important political geographies in the entire state and entire nation. Because if you can't win Florida as a Republican, you're not going to win, period.
Yeah.
And now it's taken on a big importance for Democrats because it looks like they're having trouble with North Carolina. So Florida is a critical must-have state for both political parties.
So I could springboard from the mayor's office to the White House?
Oh, you better believe it.
My guess is you've been thinking about
No,
it.
I'm teasing you.
All politicians think
No,
about
no,
it.
I'm happy being in. I'm happy. I'm happy. Don't bother me. I'm happy.
I've known him since he's been around these parts. Believe me, he loves being what he's doing
Oh,
right now
exactly,
more than he would like being in Washington. Believe me.
No doubt about that, Jack.
Well, there's something else that's really very intriguing. A lot of people don't understand about our area. Hillsborough County, of all the counties in the state, is the best bellwether for how the state of Florida is going to vote. And of course, as we know, going back decades, as Florida votes, so goes the nation. And why is that? Because Hillsborough County has all of the things that people are looking for when they develop micro-targeting strategies. We have age diversity. So if someone wants to come in and do a focus group on different age groups, Sun City retirees, university campuses, young voters, middle-aged voters in the suburban areas of the county. I mean, we've got it all right here, not to mention, of course, racial and ethnic diversity. The proportion of Democrats and Republicans and the racial interfaces with them are, again, reflective of national patterns. Wow. So we have it all here.
It's the perfect laboratory of democracy, if you will.
Plus, we got some deep pockets that like to give money to campaigns. That was certainly a big feature in attracting the Republican Party here with some key Republican donors over the years.
Yeah, that goes back to what we said. It was a nonpartisan committee trying to get it, but they got a little help from some, as you say, deep-pocketed GOP donors who stepped up and said, we'll make a few calls, we'll do what we can too.
Yeah, and I think it's another interesting thing going back to the diversity of the area, and one of the reasons that the Republicans picked this area to begin with is something that isn't discussed very often. But when you think about it, the Republican Party nationally is desperately trying to put a more diverse face on the party, both in terms of race and ethnicity and gender. So having the convention in Florida, think about it, enables the Republicans nationally to put major Hispanic figures on the stage, great speaking. I'm sure Marco Rubio will have a primetime speaking. We have a Caribbean black lieutenant governor, female lieutenant governor, in Jennifer Carroll. We have the first Cuban woman, a Cuban to be elected to the U.S. Congress, in Ileana Ross-Lehtinen. So there's a lot of diversity that our state affords the party that I think the party is really hoping will catch on in other parts of the country.
And the other thing that really people have a lot of misconceptions about when you talk about the convention itself, early on people say the convention, well, that's where they go and they nominate the person that's going to be the presidential candidate. And we well know that that's all taken care of well before you get around to the convention. And it didn't used to be the case, because I'm old enough to recall when you watched the convention and you saw floor delegates and it was a battle, Estes Kefauver or Adlai Stevenson or whoever, and you really didn't know until the convention started who the presidential candidate was going to be. Not true anymore. What is the real function of a political convention?
Hype, energy.
Just a chance to present
Whipping a
the party.
frenzy, whipping your party and potential independent voters to go your way. But really, too, there's 3 different kinds of folks. You know it, especially Bob. You've been to a lot of them, and Jack. There's 3 components of who attends that are all important to winning. First of all, you've got the elected officials who have the great Rolodexes, know the people to contact, very important to the election of the president. Secondly, you've got the big donors. And third, and this is where the frenzy and excitement comes in, the volunteers who have to do all those calls.
The activists, yeah.
All those knocking on the door, getting their friends and neighbors to the polls. This is the big reward for party activists. This is the greatest thing that can happen to them, and it energizes them to go back to their home states and their home communities and really campaign for the president.
How do you see the Florida election shaping up? I mean, is it a complete toss-up? Is it trending President Obama? Is it trending Governor Romney?
It is absolutely a toss-up. No surprise there in light of the I-4 corridor makeup. But for the last month, and there's a poll taken about once every week or so, it's, one poll shows the president ahead by a couple points, the next poll shows Romney ahead by a couple points. All the polls are within margin of error, which means, of course, that they're a dead heat. It's a toss-up. And no one expects that to change between now and November.
From the standpoint of the one unknown, I think, going in here is who the vice presidential candidate is going to be, and that's something that probably won't be announced, or we won't find out until the convention itself, right?
Well, sometimes they do it a little bit earlier. There's a lot of strategizing going on for that, too. I think this year, more than in past, the vice presidential nominees for both parties are of tremendous interest. There's a lot of dialogue about Hillary Clinton replacing Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket, which means that Republicans who have to go first in the convention cycle, they got to figure, well, do we want an all-white male ticket or do we want diversity? So there's a lot of calculations going on there. But I do think one thing that's very important for Republicans in the selection of their vice presidential candidate nominee is someone with foreign policy expertise, because we have so many hot spots in the world. And right now, everybody thinks it's the economy, the economy, the economy, but some kind of flare-up of an international consequence can change everything.
And we're right on the edge of that in too many places right now, unfortunately.
Which is certainly the strength that Senator Biden brought to the table, and I think you're absolutely right.
He sure did.
Well, sadly, this segment is up. We could talk to this woman for a very, very long period of time. She is such a fountain of knowledge. Susan, thank you as always for being here. I can't wait to see a lot more of you during the next 97 days, and certainly during the convention. I'm sure you and I will spend a lot of time together.
I hope so, and go Bulls, and we're excited about our students having a chance to be involved.
Ooh, yes.
We'll be right back with the other most important woman, other than Dr. McManus, in this whole scenario, and that's our Chief of Police, Jane Castor. We'll be right back.
My hero, by the way.
Well, Jack, we're back with somebody who's going to play an integral role in the success of this Republican National Convention. We heard from the organizers. We've heard from the political experts, and now we're going to hear from the woman who actually has to maintain security and safety.
A heavy lifter, the person who's actually going to execute this thing.
It is the biggest thing we have ever undertaken, and particularly from the public safety perspective. The number of moving parts in this, and bear in mind, this is not like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, the dynamic is very, very different. The environment is highly charged emotionally. There's a lot of people who will be here who will be intent on causing problems. And, and this woman right here is going to personally take care of every one of them.
A lot of pressure.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, this is Tampa's Police Chief, Jane Castor. Jane, thanks for being here. And,
my pleasure.
Who has done, by the way, a magnificent job in leading a group of people who have brought the crime rate down and have done so much for police activity in the Tampa Bay area, I'll say, really.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. That credit goes to the men and women of the police department. They do a great job.
You guys have been fantastic. This is going to be obviously the biggest challenge ever, and it's going to put you in charge of a very diverse group as well, as you have to bring in so many more forces from not only around the Tampa Bay area, but around the state of Florida. And one of the things, I don't know if people are aware of it, one of the things that's going to be happening is a change of uniform for everybody, right?
Yes.
That's going to be interesting, an interesting development too, and when I read about the idea of it's going to be so hot, they're going to be outdoors so often, I thought, gee, why don't they just keep those uniforms in next August and the August after that and everything, but.
Don't start any ideas. Yeah, it's a great idea to have one uniformity of the uniform. You know, we're bringing people from throughout the state. We want everybody to look alike. And then also, you know, the color, something that's cooler, the cotton uniform, so it'll be beneficial all the way around.
Well, Chief, tell us about the magnitude of what we're undertaking here from a law enforcement perspective.
I can tell you, my 28 years with the Tampa Police Department, it's like nothing that I've ever seen. It is incredible. We have just a number of subcommittees from everything transportation, logistics, crowd management. The magnitude of it is incredible. But we've been at it for over a year, and one of the benefits of having it in this area, other than it's the greatest city in the United States, is that all of law enforcement works as one here. So we're ahead of the game already, and everybody's been doing a great job preparing for this. Getting the community prepared, the communication, the training, everything. Just done a great job.
I guess Gasparilla, things like that are a pretty good
practice
background because you all work together for that, and
it really
it's happened
is.
year after year after year.
And we've had, you know, a number of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And when people said that this was the equivalent of 4 or 5 Super Bowls, I thought, you know, an event's an event, you expand and contract. But honestly, this is bigger than anything that I'll ever be involved in. It's very exciting for not only for the Tampa Police Department, but for all Bay Area law enforcement.
Well, David G's been a great partner throughout this. I mean, we couldn't
Right.
pull this off without
Oh,
Hillsborough
without a
County
doubt.
Sheriff's
And we
Office.
work as one agency, as you well know. TPD and HCSO are just like one agency, so that's a benefit.
The thing is, all of what we talk about, the focus of the entire world is going to be here, but we know from the past, and because of the press coverage, that's what the press is going to look at. The face of this convention is really going to be the treatment of the protesters or the interaction between police and protesters. That'll be the story, regardless of what happens down here at the forum. That's what the press is going to be waiting for and looking for. They love those kind of stories.
Well, we saw it this weekend with the NATO conference
thing,
in Chicago, and inevitably the clip that was replayed over and over again was the confrontation between the police and the anarchists, who will all be here, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, that was
They'll be
another
here
rehearsal, another warm-up for what's going to be happening here.
And that's why we sent a contingent up there to see exactly how that operation went.
So tell us about some of the training we've been doing, and I know you've been at it for months.
Right, we're doing a great deal of crowd management training, and that is, a lot of that training is put on by the Department of Homeland Security, and it's outstanding training. All of our officers have gone through the basic training, and then those individuals that will be tasked with crowd management will go through extensive training, probably in the area of 10 days of training. And then we're going to train the other agencies that are coming up here, and then when everyone comes 4 days early, they'll go through another 3 days of training to ensure that everybody's prepared.
And so tell us, how many additional officers are coming to help us? Where are they coming from? You know, how are
Well, it takes about 3,500 to 4,000 officers to put this on. We have just under 1,000 officers, and obviously we have to protect the rest of the community as well during these 4 days.
Ooh, yeah.
And then also the sheriff's office, they have around 1,200. So we had to bring in a number of officers from throughout the state, and everybody's been very, very eager and willing to assist us in that. So we'll have the officers that we need to ensure that this is a safe and enjoyable event for everyone.
I remember talking, this was well over a year ago, at an event in Clearwater, and talking to a police officer there who was telling me, oh yeah, we've already started. We've already started. We've been in touch and making plans and doing things. And I thought, well, that's good, planning ahead.
Yeah,
Certainly
yeah,
takes-
it does. You know, you just can't do this overnight. And we've been at it for well over a year. And Pinellas County, St. Pete, Clearwater, they've been great partners as well.
Well, Jane, a lot of times folks will hear about the $50 million that we got from the federal government. We couldn't have done this without that help. And they gave $50 million to Charlotte and to Tampa for security-related things. Tell us how that money will be spent. We have about a minute left.
Well, the vast majority of it goes towards the personnel that are coming here, you know, to pay the salaries, to pay for their lodging, equipment, and to feed them. That's the vast majority of the money. And we've been very, very good stewards of the federal dollar, as we have been with other grants. We have an outstanding working relationship with BJA. So the money will be spent very wisely. and it will go to make sure this is a safe event.
This is beneficial in one other way too, in that although this was very necessary for this event, you will have some residual equipment, technology, things like that that'll be left over that will benefit the police department in the future, right?
Without a doubt. For example, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, they're going to get all new radios as a result of the RNC. We're bringing them in so everybody's on the same radio system. When they leave town, all of these radios are going to Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
And the other key is something you touched on here, as a person who lives in another part of town from here, that you all are charged with not only being a part of this force here, but making sure that the rest of the entire city is still safe, that you
That's true.
go about doing the things that have to be done year-round. And that's a massive undertaking when you're
It
so
sure
focused
is.
downtown.
And I want to ensure that the rest of the community will be protected. We will have the same number of officers on duty throughout the city that we do any other day of the week.
Well, rest assured that when this convention takes place, the city and the Tampa Police Department is going to be on the job, and they're under the great leadership of Jane Castor. We'll be right back with the fire chief, because the fire department has a part of this as well. So, Jane, thank you, and
My pleasure.
we're going to have fun this summer.
We are going to have fun.
And now we have Tampa Fire Rescue Zone, the chief of Tampa Fire Rescue, Chief Tom Ford. Tom, thanks for being here. And you know, Jane's men and women are going to be on the front lines and helping keep this environment safe. But an equally important part of this is the role of Tampa Fire Rescue. Obviously, with 50,000 visitors and guests here, not to mention a few other ne'er-do-wells, you know, we're going to have an opportunity to introduce a lot of folks to Tampa's public safety agencies. And so, Tom, what do you see Tampa Fire's role in this to be, and what have they laid out for you as your jobs, and how are you going to do it?
Obviously, Mayor, my role and Tampa Fire Rescue's role in this event is to provide that public safety piece that Fire Rescue normally does with regard to efficient response to the issues that may happen as a result of the convention. So we're geared up to provide a high level of fire and rescue response to the convention area.
And when you put 50,000 people out there in hyperactivity for that much time, you know there are going to be a lot of medical emergencies. I mean, people with heart problems or things like that, and you're talking about a lot of elderly people as well.
And the heat.
Yeah, and the heat is going to be a huge issue out here that people aren't used to dealing with that kind of heat and humidity.
And Jack, we have definitely forecasted that we would have a significant number of emergency medical responses specifically because of that environment. And we are geared our programs up and our protocols up to respond to those as well.
Now, we know that the police department is getting a lot of help from local agencies throughout the Tampa Bay area as well as the state. Are you able to bring in help, bring in assistance for this pretty overwhelming job?
Jack, that's a great question. One of the beauties of Tampa Fire Rescue and one of the great things that we realize in this community with respect to public safety is that a number of memorandums of agreement that we already have on the books. We have good mutual aid programs already in place to address those issues when our resources, manpower, or equipment will become overstrapped with respect to a major response type of protocol. So we've shared with our partners, all the way Hillsborough County, Temple Terrace, Plant City, MacDill Air Force Base, St. Pete, Pasco, Pinellas, and Polk counties to relook at our MOUs, our Memorandum of Understanding, make certain that there are no concerns that they might have relative to those, because in the event that we need those forces or those additional resources, they can still provide them to us.
And similar to what the chief said, as well as dealing with this 50,000 visitors all concentrated in one area here, you also at the same time have to continue to take care of the entire city of Tampa where there is no convention going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, once again, that's one of the health and fitness areas that Tampa Fire Rescue and the city of Tampa realize. Again, our partnerships and our collaborations don't just happen just for specific incidents. We maintain those type of partnerships throughout our entire service throughout the year. Yeah. So even regardless of this type of major convention, obviously we'll step those processes up. We have protocols already in place. We've already communicated to our forces, and we'll also be tactically redeploying positions, decentralizing them from their normal daily stations, and I won't get into any specifics, but putting our persons and our apparatus in a responsive zone so they can better and more rapidly respond to any calls for service.
And unfortunately, too, you might be dealing with some issues of where people have been injured in scuffles and that kind of thing, too.
That's correct.
Now, talk to us about the command center. How are you guys going to communicate? Are you going to jointly sit with TPD? How is that going to work?
Good question, Mayor, and obviously, yes. And we, again, I can't say enough about how those relationships work so well together with respect to working with Chief Castor's group, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, FDLE, and all of our other partners, even our federal partners, FBI and the state's FDLE as well. But we will be collectively and collaboratively in a shared domain, whether it's in the MAC or whether it's in the...
Now, what is the MAC?
The MAC is the Multi-Agency Response Center, or the Multi-Agency Communications Center. Either way, you're going to have all those parties in place, persons that can make command decisions about protocols, response, and emergencies that we can easily move resources in place to mitigate any type of situation we might face.
And I'll tell you, when they could really become active, you guys could really face a little heat, if you'll pardon the expression, could be if there were a storm or something like that, heaven forbid.
Don't even say that, Jack. Don't even say that.
We don't even want to talk about that. Hey, we're impervious to that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about
Well, since you did say that, and the mayor asked me about that Multi-Agency Coordination Center and the Multi-Agency Command Center, also in the EOC, we will have the
What's the EOC?
The Emergency Operations Center.
That one I knew, not
That's
that.
right.
Just trying to help you out there because we tend to talk in acronyms, and so.
Thank you, Mayor. The Emergency Operations Center will also house the National Weather Service and their own persons, which will give us real-time data with respect to weather conditions, impending weather conditions, and forecasts right now, which will allow us not only to get that information out to the conventioneers, but to all of our emergency responders as well, to posture ourselves to be able to make a good response, even in spite of inclement weather.
Tom, we got about a minute left. Tell us about the relationship with the healthcare providers, Tampa General Hospital, St. Joe's. How is that going to work?
Very good, Mayor. With respect, when we have one entire subcommittee that's set up just for health and medical to ensure if we have an incident, irregardless, and obviously you're going to have multiple players in multiple precedences of emergency response. Whether it's dignitaries, whether it's just regular conventioneers, whether it's just your regular persons, St. Joe, Tampa General, Brandon Community, all of our medical communities around here, including across the bridge, have already been energized, and that medical support team, that health and medical support team, will have a protocol with respect to how they will place persons of injuries based on their precedence and priorities in those respective hospitals.
And one other thing, we know that the police are getting some technology and some equipment and things like that they'll be able to use in the future after this thing is over. Are you guys benefiting at all?
We are. We were in a number of things, and thanks to our mayor as well. He was able also to look at, we were supposed to purchase certain equipments in the 2013 budget. Because of this convention, he allowed us to move those unique pieces of equipment forward to the 2012 budget so that we could use those to support this convention. One such piece is that Hazardous Materials Response Unit, which is a major unit that houses all of our special meters, our special equipment for sensing, regardless of the type of release that we may have to deal with. That unit will allow us to do that. Also, we're getting a tactical support unit, which is a small command module, if you will, that'll afford us the opportunity to put command personnel in place right in the convention footprint that will allow us to pull up in real time any type of critical infrastructure within the footprint. Pre-fire plans, also being able to identify where our people are. Also, will identify exactly the tracking of resources to let us know what's available to us in the event that we need to deploy assets.
Tom, that's great. And you should take comfort knowing that the men and women of Tampa Rescue are standing by and ready to help. And if you ever get a chance, make sure you say thank you to them when you see them on the street. Yep. Thanks, Chief Ford. You and I are going to have a long summer together.
Yes, sir.
You and I and Chief Castor are going on vacation after this.
Long hot summer.
Jack, the show is all yours after that. We have a relative newcomer to Tampa here, but someone who is an expert in planning and organizing and executing conventions, has done how many, Bill?
This will be my 11th convention.
11?
11th?
Yeah.
Woo.
11 Republican.
Some people say I'm a slow learner.
You are a glutton for punishment, I'll tell you that. But this is great because we couldn't do this without having someone like this who's got the expertise, who's made the mistakes and has learned from them, and then will help us to prevent them. And so Bill Harris is the CEO of the Committee on Arrangements, and you're going to have to explain to the audience what exactly that is. But he's a guy who has earned his stripes in the convention business, and you know, we look at him as just such a tremendous resource and has made this relationship absolutely seamless, and we're happy to have you, Bill.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And before we get started, let me say I want to thank you and everybody in the Tampa Bay region for the wonderful hospitality and working very hard. A lot of people have to go out of their way to make this a successful event for Tampa Bay, and they've been doing that. We've had a wonderful relationship, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, we're excited. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, as the mayor said, explain what all it is that's in your purview of doing here. I mean, because we're looking at it from the standpoint of the host city and so forth, but you're the one that has to come into an area and say, okay, this is how it actually works. This is how you're going to move people around. This is how you're going to get people situated, that kind of thing. What specifically are you in charge of?
Well, let me back up just a second. I mean, one of the things that excites me about a national convention is they're unique in the American political experience and really internationally. And they're a lot like America, and they are a critical part of the electoral experience in this country. It's the one time during the course of an election process where people have the opportunity to get a true understanding of what a candidate stands for and what they believe in. And to make that happen, you have this very interesting relationship between the cities and the local host areas and the political parties. I mean, the mayor and I actually have competing agendas on this, and that I obviously want to promote my nominee. He wants to promote Tampa and the entire Tampa region, Tampa Bay region, and the state of Florida. Yeah. But those are not mutually exclusive goals. And so that part of my job is to work with the mayor and the other people in this area to make sure that they work together so that both can satisfy their objectives. In my case, I want the American people to be able to see my candidate and the vision and to understand them better, and so I believe that will then support him. He wants people to understand that Tampa is a great region for people to move to, for people to bring their trade shows, their conventions to move their businesses to, and to promote the business environment here. So that's what I do in respect. And what that means on my side, I think of it as sort of a threefold process, is that we come to, I'm responsible for the operations of the convention. Everything from securing of the sites to building out the sets, the design of the sets, the lights, the sound, the programming, the hotel assignments. We have over 16,000 rooms and 105 properties. Who gets to stay where in those properties?
And that was a big issue, I know, particularly the state of Florida, which of course was penalized.
Still is a tad bit of an issue.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you hear about it a time or two.
But the good thing is you don't have any bad places to stay in the Tampa Bay area. It might be distant, but not bad.
That's exactly right. So we tried to build a set on which a candidate can come in, a theater, if you will. The candidate can come in and present their vision on. And then, so that's the Committee on Arrangements. It's a subcommittee of the National Party that comes in and runs all their operations, builds out the set. And to make the decision to come here, the Tampa Bay region said, you know, we think it would be a good thing to host a national convention. So we're going to put in a bid that says if you come here, we'll give you certain cash and resources to do that. There's a host committee that comes up to deliver on those commitments made. Yeah. And so that we're going to give you the Tampa Bay Town Forum and the Convention Center. Both, by the way, y'all need to know, are world class.
That's great.
I have worked in centers all over this country, and they're wonderful facilities, and the staffs are absolutely spectacularly professional.
That's great.
You should be very proud of those facilities. And so the host committee then delivers on all those commitments and the cash resources. That's what they're raising the money for. You know, they have to rent the forum, rent the convention center. And those three groups then sort of work together to make this happen.
And yeah, as you say, his is the apolitical part of this. Yours is the political part of it to showcase the candidate and
That's
so
correct.
forth. And for people who aren't familiar with conventions again, what can we expect to see during this 4-day period from the convention floor or around the convention center, or around the, I should say, the forum?
Well, we will have approximately 50 to 60,000 people in town, spread out, not all of them at the convention at any one point in time, obviously, by the way, but that's people working on it and supporting it. And you can expect to see a lot of activity during the entire day when it's there, of course, intensifying during the night hours when there's a session in progress. There will be hundreds of events around town. You know, different state delegations, different organizations, different committees host different receptions around town. So there'll be an awful lot of activity. It'll be a very busy, I say 4 days, but it's actually more than 4 days. We actually get kicked off the week before with various meetings here in town.
Yeah, I saw too where I think it was Google is hosting a party at the Art Museum, and really there's so many people that benefit. There will be so many venues that are going to be used for the parties, for the, as you say, the various states and separate groups of delegations and things like that. So, I mean, it expands way beyond the Tampa Bay Times Forum.
Oh, it expands way beyond that. And that underlines part of the premise that I try to emphasize, that the real advantage to the Tampa Bay region is not just whatever revenue, which there'll be considerable that you make during, but the reputation and the image that you create among the decision makers who will be here and across the airwaves during the course to make people make the decision to come back and spend money again. So it's really a strategic investment on the part of Tampa Bay as well as a tactical investment.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. This is like having a big hit movie that's focused on your town, and when everybody sees that hit movie, they say, wow, we want to go to that town. That looks like a fun town to be in.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We have thoroughly enjoyed working with your staff, and I know you're going to be staffing up. How many folks are you going to end up employing before this is over?
Well, we've got about 100 on staff working right now, and we'll get up to about 125. But about a week before it actually starts, we'll come up with about another, say, 300 who will be volunteers, but they'll be full-time volunteers that we actually treat as staff that are actually involved in the operations of the process.
And this is different than the 700 we heard from Ken earlier about community volunteers that will be greeters
Oh,
and whatnot.
no, that's in addition to the thousands of people who will be here that will help to
7,000, I should
say.
Yeah,
7,000. Be ambassadors for Tampa Bay by working with hotels and greeting people, but help run the security systems and the transportation systems and all the things that have to happen to make this a successful event.
Bill and I have a running joke in this last minute of the segment. His favorite mayor in his favorite convention town was Ed Rendell, who was the Democratic mayor of Philadelphia.
Yep.
My aspirations are to replace Ed Rendell as Bill's favorite Democratic mayor in his favorite city.
So that when he gets together for the next convention and gets on somebody's mayor's hour up there,
that's right. He's going to say,
I'll tell you what.
But let me tell you about this guy down in
Tampa.
town.
As Bob Buckhorn did it down in Tampa, you're really going to be doing a great job.
I got to
there.
top fast Eddie Rendell.
Well, we couldn't have a better relationship than we've got here.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So here you've had it. You've had the CEO of the Committee on Arrangements, you've had the CEO of the host committee, you've had the police chief, you've had the fire chief, you have all the people today that are going to make this thing a special occasion for Tampa, and we couldn't be prouder of our relationship. We're looking forward to this. The eyes of the world are going to be watching Tampa and Tampa Bay, and we're going to dance like we've never danced before, and it's.
Ooh,
I couldn't be more excited. And Bill,
analogy.
thank you for what you're doing, and I am going
Thanks
to
for having me.
I'm going to steal that title. And we're going to roll into a video right now. Stay with us, and we'll be right back.
We're looking at 200 bicycle officers. You know, we expect for them to kind of be the ambassadors of the city. You know, when you take them out of the car, they're a lot more approachable. You know, people are going to be from all over the world here visiting Tampa that week, and they're going to need anything from directions to a restaurant to a local ATM or just how to get around town. The bikes give us a unique advantage in our response to various situations. You know, we could be a situation where someone may need some medical assistance. There may be a crowd management issue. The bicycles are able to maneuver through crowds, respond more quickly. The training's been quite intensive for them. You know, they're going to have to be able to jump up over curbs, potentially go up and down steps. You know, when you're looking at the heat, the time that's going to be spent, they're looking at, you know, long days on those bicycle seats, and, you know, it takes something to get used to. The bicycles are not your average bike. They're a lot sturdier. The mechanics of the bike are a lot different than just your average bike. Safariland was the actual company that provided the bicycles, and they're using the Kona model of a bicycle. And the wheels are 29-inch wheels. They're usually a bigger wheel than what the average bike has. They're reinforced frames. They're going to have a package on them that will include a light and siren, and there will be a bag on the back that they can put in various supplies in there. There's obviously us with the Tampa Police Department and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. We're the two main agencies involved, but we have invited our agencies from St. Petersburg. We have the Polk County Sheriff's Office, and Temple Terrace will be involved also. And, you know, what that does is that allows us to bring in agencies from this region, and after the RNC, they'll be able to take those bicycles back to their area, to their communities. They'll have a police officer or a deputy who's trained on how to use that. And, you know, the region will be much more safer, much more stronger, because that equipment and those people will be back in those communities keeping them safe.
Tampa Police Department has 6 horses. All of our horses are donated. They're not bought. We train them out at our property. We've got 250 acres out in the Nonsassa that's a city-owned well field. We have a barn out there that was all built on donations. We take these horses in, we train them out there first. They go through a series of obstacles, equitation. We have to judge them before we ever hit the street, as we do our officers. If I get a new officer that's never ridden on a horse before, it's usually 4 to 6 months before he ever hits the street on the horse. But there's so much training that goes into it, and if the horse isn't going to cut it, because I need to have a horse that can stand there while somebody runs up with an umbrella or a baby stroller that wants to pet your horse, that the horse is going to stand there and be good. We work with agencies all across the state of Florida. We had them come up for the Super Bowl, large events, Gasparilla. We work with Manatee County, Hillsborough County, Polk County, Sarasota County, Osceola County. We've even got a couple from Key West. But we do joint training with everybody so that when we do a large event, everybody has the same idea of what needs to be done. We try to all be on the same page so that it doesn't matter what we're working. We all know the same calls, same commands. Today we're evaluating some horses that haven't been evaluated before. We evaluate them on equitation, which is basically everything that a horse has to do, whether it's side passing, walk, trot, canter, and we need to make sure that the rider is secure in their seat and can ride the horse the way they need to be ridden. We do crowd control. My guys work EBOR every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night as far as bar fights, clearing the streets at the end of the night. They're also goodwill ambassadors for the city of Tampa. It's a good community relations. Every year, but from the day after Thanksgiving to the day after Christmas, we patrol the malls because we can see over the cars. We can see whether people are trying to break into cars, things like that. Large crowds, we can see over the top of the crowd, so we can, you know, pick and point. As opposed to being on the ground or in a car, you don't have that height vision.
Well, that was a great video, and it showed the capacity and the capabilities of Tampa Police Department. I'm excited. They are a world-class police organization, and we're going to be in good hands come next August. But Jack, another great show.
Yeah.
You know, this is Tampa coming of age right now.
Oh, it certainly is. This is such a huge event and such a focus of attention from around the globe, as we pointed out again and again. The press coverage on this will be the equivalent of what you're going to have in London. Yeah. In the same month, the month of August, for the 2012 Olympics. And I was thinking of something as we were talking a little bit earlier, and I have to talk about this on the radio one day, but I can remember being in a banquet, let's see, right over here at this hotel, as a matter of fact, and a guy named Ed Taranchik had come up with the idea of bidding for the 2012 Olympics.
Yeah, I remember those days, yeah.
And that would have been happening in August of 2012.
Yep.
And that, of course, never came to fruition. I think it was New York that won the bid for 2012, did, yeah. And of course was beaten by London. But frankly, I think we can better handle the convention than we can the Olympics. So. Maybe the Winter Olympics someday. Yeah. It's good luck, Jack. Hopefully not while I'm the mayor. No, this is exciting. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, it is a big lift for us.
There will be things that will happen that we don't particularly want to see. And there will be incidents, and we need everyone to understand that, you know, as hard as we are training and as hard as we're planning and as hard as we're trying to anticipate everything that might happen, there will be people here who will cause problems. And
it's that part of it really isn't in your hands. It's going to depend on them, and they're coming in here with mischief in mind. We've seen it happening with the Occupy Oakland. We've seen it happening with the NATO conference that was held up there. And all of this really is a warm-up because the convention is a big thing. And they're going to have the same difficulty in Charlotte as well with the Democrat convention up there. But you've got about 5,000 protesters. We keep hearing that number thrown out there. We really have no idea. It could be 10,000, it could be 2,500. But you know there are going to be 100 or 200 or 300 that are truly anarchists, and they're the ones that are going to unfortunately grab the attention of the press, and that's why Chief Jane Castor's job is going to be so tough. All of the police, they're going to be truly the ambassadors for Tampa because they're the ones that are going to be on camera when something does happen. And
and you know, they'll be there on the front lines, and it's going to be hot, and there'll be people who will be antagonizing them and trying to provoke a reaction from them, and so that's why this training is so important. And you know, I've got the utmost confidence in those men and women. They're going to make us proud, and they're going to administer justice to those that deserve it. And we're also going to be as welcoming to those who want to come and express their First Amendment rights as we are to those who are coming to participate in the convention. And so,
we've seen that unfold. The difficulty of that has been for you to try to accommodate the protesters, to make it right for them, to make it so that it's easy for them, and they come in and feel as welcome as the delegates do without accommodating the anarchists. And
it's
they
a delicate
should be
balance
separated. It is.
And you want to make sure that, you know, folks who are coming here with legitimate protests get a chance to voice those concerns. And that's democracy in its finest. And you would hope that everyone would behave, but we know they won't. And so we will do our best to accommodate everyone, also understanding that the anarchists will try and infiltrate some of these legitimate groups to provoke a police reaction. And so we're going to be ready for it. It's going to be a great, great month of August. This will be Tampa's time to dance on the international stage, and I am absolutely confident that we're going to rise to the occasion, and the world will see this community for what it is, which is a great place to live and invest and grow a business, and this will be the best thing that we have ever undertaken. So, Jack,
you're going to take a little vacation when that's over?
I'm going to need a vacation, Jack.
I'm sure you are. I'm going to need a real busy. You talk about people being busy. You and Jane Castor are going to be the busiest people around.
Yeah, my summer consists of a $30 million deficit, the Republican National Convention in the middle of hurricane season.
Oh, yes.
So
we hadn't even thought about that.
Tell me why I wanted this job? No, I'm kidding. We'll see you next month. Thanks again for joining us, and let's make Tampa proud.